Up degenerates, Mad Merrigan here for Cold Bear Sports, and we have our old friend back on again, Mickey D. How's things, Mickey?
Not too bad, Paddy. Great hot weather. I'd like to firstly congratulate yourself and Joe Value on your recent purchases. You were seen coming out of B&Q and Cousin in Athlone, the two of you last Saturday morning with two new wheelbarrows.
Yeah.
And you headed straight over to Paddy Powers and you lobbed in a heap of 50s into it. And rumour has it that Joe was singing a bit of a song, Dublin in the rare old times. And the first line of that is, raised on song and stories, heroes of renown. Apparently he had a 4-point nap there last week, heroes of renown, and he hasn't stopped singing it since. And of course you were singing Simply the Best, a Tina Turner classic. So we know why that is, because you're tipping lots of winners lately.
Cheers, they're very kind words, but I have to correct you. Your information is false. It was only a pillowcase full of money this time. We'll be looking to bring the barrow very, very soon. But as always, great to have Mickey on the show again. Yes, a lot of winners lately. Some nice prices as well. So always great to have them. Any day you can get them. Right, let's move on, because we have a really big race weekend intact. Of course, none other than the King George. So let's start. Look, before we come on to the bigger races, I suppose, Mickey, let's just give a quick mention. The card kicks off tomorrow in the 120, and we have a novice stakes. I think it's for the fillies, the first race. Anything interesting here, Mickey D?
Well, the horses that has ran already haven't great form at all. The John Gosden horse was 8th of 9th. He was beaten 6.5 lengths, and the Charlie Appleby horse, Pulcherry, was 3rd of 3, beaten 7 lengths, and the Richard Hannon horse was 8th of 12, beaten 8 lengths. So anything that has ran hasn't great form to boost. So there's a first time out horse there of Mark Johnson's, and it's very well bred by Postponed, a former King George winner actually, and out of Delaney Mare. And there's a very notable booking of Ryan Moore as a jockey. And it's very seldom now to see that. So it took my eye straight away that Zestful is the name of the horse there at the bottom there, that he could be good enough maybe to win first time out if he's ready. And Johnson's horses are going pretty well like this weather.
Yes, you know what, Mickey? Good minds think alike. Very interesting. I think it's a great shout. Postponed needs no introduction. A winner of the Coronation Cup as well. I think he won one of the big races out at the Dubai Carnival as well one time. Very good horse. Yeah, for Roger Varian. And I think you hit the nail on the head here. Ryan Moore in the saddle. It's definitely interesting that this horse comes here this weekend, and it's that time of the year, a few days before we kick into Glorious Goodwood, which we will be covering in the next couple of days, where Mark Johnson's horses tend to step up and really, the yard does be on fire around this time. So it's no doubt it's had a nice preparation, and I'm sure they're expecting this one to do good things today. So listen, very interesting and great insight. Nice spot there, Mickey. Look, the Godolphin horse had finished third first time out, but I think that was 3 of 3, and it was odds on. Look, it's a race. It's hard to know what anything is capable of, but I think we've touched enough on an interesting runner. So let's move on to the 155. Mickey D, we have a couple in here. Obviously the interesting one was the horse that finished second behind a really nice horse of Charlie Appleby's, is a Haraz, or however you pronounce it. Definitely interesting. We have another one here, first time outs for James Chute, is it? Adjudicator. Look, hard to know. I think there might be one in here that could be an above average sort.
Yeah, 6 furlong race, won by 2 favourites in the last 10 years. It was won by Richard Hannon the last 3 years, and he has won it 6 out of the last 10 years. So that's the starting off point to look for Eraz, for Shadwell, and that was purchased for 180,000 as a yearling. So it's from a good page. He had it entered as well in the listed race on Saturday, so they chose this instead. It was first time out over 7 furlongs in a fast time to a Kingman horse of Appleby's. Yeah, and the horse that was fifth. The horse that was fifth in that maiden was sweeping, and that was fourth in the Chesham. So it's royal, you know, if you get evens or a bit above it, you know, just bring the wheelbarrow and another one beside it and shovel it in and shovel it out.
Yeah, look, it was a really nice debut. The horse you're talking about, Archie Watson's horse, yeah, he finished fourth or fifth that day. He ran well in Ascot. Kind of I thought he was going to run a lot better in Ascot, that sweeping horse, but just kind of fell away the last furlong. Kind of was similar enough, to be fair, the last day in Newmarket, but I think the Richard Hannon horse will have learned plenty from Newmarket and should be the one to beat, unless there's a really, really good one hiding there on or that hasn't ran yet, which is highly unlikely they'll reach the level of this fella first time. Right, let's move on.
The fact that Hannon has won 6 out of the last 10, you see, as well, and he brings this, and it was entered in the listed race, and he chose it to come here, like, you know, so it looks like a penalty kick.
Yeah, really does. For a year, Shadwell as well, having a massive year. Right, the 230 saw a handicap over 2 mile. What is it, the Jack Brown or the Racing Brown Jack handicap? Right. Mark Johnson as well, Ryan Moore team up again, the top wheel. I see the Charlie Fellows horse could be interesting here. Oisin Murphy, Blow Your Horn. Speedy boy for Ian Williams, who had a nice winner yesterday in Sandown. Anything standing out for you here? I thought this was a trappy race, and for one, I'd probably sit out.
Yeah, an interesting trend in this is that 7 favourites in the last 10 years has won, and there was a 9-2 and a 3-1, and the only outsider was a 12-1 shot. Mark Johnson has won it 3 times, and 2 of them were favourites. There's 2 horses in this actually that I backed last time out, and one was in the Northumberland Vase, and the other was in the Northumberland Plate. Blow Your Horn was in the Northumberland Plate, and the Vase, he was third. He was left with much to do by Spencer, typical coming from the back, and looked like he might get there late. The interesting thing is that he has ran 5 times on dirt. He has 2 wins, a second, and 2 thirds. And the other one, that he hasn't ran too many times on the turf. But he had one great run when he stayed on very well at 1.5 miles to Ascot in Doncaster. Now, Australis was the other one that I had backed in the Northumberland Plate. And that was 7th. Has beaten less than 4 lengths, like, but still, that's 0 for 11 on grass as well. And the 2 of them have similar profiles. He has 4 wins and 4 seconds from 10 starts on the all-weather, and he's 0 from 11 on the grass. So putting all that into a nutshell and seeing what's the most progressive, it seems, I think, is Blow Your Horn. So and I think I didn't even look at prices or anything at all. I would expect Blow Your Horn maybe to be favourites, and with the stats, 11 favourites in the last 10 years, whatever's favourite should have a very worthy chance.
Yeah, very interesting, Blow Your Horn, definitely. But for me, it was just a race I couldn't get a real handle on, and I thought to myself, I could make a case for them all, and I don't like that. It's too close. Right, the 3 o'clock in Ascot, that then brings a really nice fillies listed race. So we have declared interest, the Ralph Beckett was a nice winner of a handicap. Obviously we have Lights On, who was very impressive the last day in Pontefract, albeit a lot different ground than they're going to be facing tomorrow. Wally Yak, a horse you chipped up in Ascot, disappointed. Well, disappointed, I suppose the last day is the right word to use. And then we have Indigo Girl, right? She boasts some really, really good form, but she'll suppose she has to come back, and you have to take it on trust that she's okay. Little late in the season to be making its seasonal debut. What are you thinking here, Mickey?
Yeah, it's an interesting one, as you said. It's a Group 3.
I called it a listed, sorry.
Oh no, whether she's a listed race. Yeah,
Group 3, right.
Group 3. There's one last year by Lady Bowthorpe at 12-1. 2 favourites in the last 10 years, 5 4-year-olds and 5 3-year-olds. It's interesting that Indigo Girl hasn't ran, it's into July nearly. I don't know, they're looking at an autumn campaign or what. But her 3 runs last year, twice was on soft and 1 was on good ground. So maybe that's why they were waiting for the end of the year for her, for that she may like a more cut in the ground. There will be there on, although there is rain, thunderstorms expected. Like Indigo Girl is the highest rated. Like it brings great form to the table. It was second to Pretty Gorgeous in the Fillies Mile in last year in Newmarket. Mother Earth was third in that, and that won the Guineas this year. It also gets an £8 weight allowance, or weight for age allowance. So, I mean, if they run that, if they're not afraid of going on top of the ground, like realistically, that should win because it is entries in Group 1s later in the year. Like so.
Yes.
You mentioned Waliak as well, but I think the ground got that the last time. The time it ran in Ascot was on better ground, and Lights On bet that handily. But I dismissed that sort of a race because the ground didn't suit some horses, and it suited that Lights On best. So
yeah, look, it's definitely an interesting race. It's an intriguing little race. If the filly comes back of Gosden's like say trains on, comes back, and as you say, a lot quicker ground, being by Dubawi as well. Hopefully, we don't know why it's taken so long to reappear. But if everything is okay, you'll be thinking this filly will get this done and move on to bigger and better things. However, saying that, it's never that straightforward. If it was, everybody would be rich. So I'm going to give a little shout out here to Declared Interest. She might be able to outrun her odds. I'm sure she'll be a big price. She won't be near the favourites. And she was a cosy winner with a big weight in a handicap the last time. She's an improver. She will have to step up though to trouble the likes of an Indigo, in-form Indigo. But let's just touch on Indigo. Pretty Gorgeous had all that form and didn't train on. So it's never a given. It's never a given that things can happen. Look, Waliak, if you can forgive Waliak the run in Pontefract, you might have a nice price about a filly that definitely looked on the up in Ascot. Let's just touch on, sorry, it'd be unfair not to mention Dream Loper, boiled over a bit in Ascot, but I think she'll have to step up to trouble these fillies.
Yeah, I agree.
What do you think then, Mickey? We'll move on so to the 335. Look, Declared Interest for me, the few bob at a bigger price. Maybe, is there 8 runners? No, there might be only 7. Bollocks of a job. Right, the bookies win again before we even start. Right, John Quest racing handicap, Mickey, 1.5 miles. Can you figure it out? An interesting horse here. That man again, John Gosden and Frankie Dettori. Grand Bazaar. I thought this ran okay on comeback. Definitely want to beat. And Alan King and one of our guests, Martin Harley, have Midnight Legacy. Definitely a few interesting ones. What are you thinking, Mickey?
Yeah, there's 3 horses here that were pulled out, but 3 of them were pulled out twice on account of the ground being soft or having rain in it. That's Grand Bazaar, Pirate King, and Valor and Steel. So they'll get their conditions on Saturday, so there should be no problem for them. Grand Bazaar, John Gosden's, that was 3rd to Zabil Champion of 97. It has Frankie aboard. Pirate King was pulled out the last twice, as I said, it was 4th in July off 101. But the interesting one for me is, and I had it tipped up for Ascot, is Valryan Steel. It's the least exposed of all, and it quickened up fierce well, I thought, in Kimpton when it won off 89, and it's only up £7. And David Egan for Roger Varian, that's one I'll be doing in that. This is only the 6th running of this. There's only 1 favourite in the 5 years, so there isn't really a 10-year trend to work off. So Valryan Steel will do for me in this race.
Yes, definitely interesting. He was near favourite for the race in Haydock, I think it was, and then he was pulled out. What was it, that race? It's only a couple of weeks ago, the ground came up very soft. Definitely an interesting horse. I'm inclined to side with you here, but I think Grand Bazaar is probably the horse to beat. It'll be interesting to see what the money comes for and what goes off favourite. If Valryan Steel went off favourite, you'd really you'd be thinking it can step up again. Definitely an interesting runner. Right, it's a race. I don't know, it's not one that I could nail down, but I think if the money comes for your lad, you might be on a winner. Right, let's move on quickly. So a sprint here. We have old Caspian Prince, 12 years of age, running better than ever and just a bullet from a gun. Another horse in here that I mentioned before at the start of the season. I mentioned on my YouTube, I really like Jawal. I said, keep an eye on him this year. He's going to be a horse on the up. He goes out, he runs 3 times, he finishes nowhere, he gets bet, and then I disown him. And the minute I disown him, the first time I disown him, he goes and he wins 2 in a row. Then the minute I leave him, after telling everybody at the start of the year, really looking forward to him coming out. Michael Dodds does well with these horses. And then 3 times I burned my fingers, and now he wins twice since. Mickey D, who's the fastest horse in this race?
Probably the favourite will go off significantly after his last 2 runs. But it beat Tis Marvellous the last time, and it got £10. And now it's only getting £5. So Tis Marvellous is raced at top of the ground. It's a race at 111. It likes top of the ground, so I'll have a few quid on him. There's only 6 runners, so Caspian Prince it'd be out like it's lightning fast, even though it's 12. But it'll be interesting, like, to see what will go second and who'll come from the back, like, you know. But I just have a slight leniency towards Tis Marvellous.
Well, if Caspian Prince can win this, do you know what? And I'm not even joking. I'll fly over to Michael Appleby's yard and I'll give him a few treats, because what a horse he is. An absolute diamond. This horse has globe trotted. He's been everywhere. He must be a pleasure to own. He's been with so many different trainers as well. He's definitely, what a horse, and just a pleasure, I suppose, anyone that has that involved with him. He will be burning up that turf, but I just think the stiff uphill 5 at Ascot and the age might catch him out. But what a horse. Look, I'm not going to disown Jawal again, even though I had tipped up significantly to win in Ascot, and he's won twice there since. But you know what? I did have a feeling Jawal could be pretty decent. I know he's quirky, and I know he's a bit of a boyo, but this race could set up nicely for him. With the likes of Caspian Prince going off significantly, traveled strong, handy. He doesn't have to make it around, but that'll be up there. And I just think with Caspian Prince in the race, it might just set up for a Jawal.
Yeah.
If he can get that little bit of cover. Right, we'll move on. So, but I think for me, it's Jawal. I'm not going to lay him again. Right, the 440. This is a handicap again. Interesting enough, there's no prices in for this race. It's a 5 furlong race again. And Michael Dodds, I'm sure this one will probably head the market. Have a go at Mecca. This is really, really nice form. David Probert will be trying to bag another winner after he wins on Jawal. For Michael Dodds before they head home. So it's a fillies handicap over 5. Have you looked at it, Mickey?
Yeah, the 2 favourites in the last, it's only the 6th time running, so there's 2 favourites, a 4-1, a 5-1, 11-2. So top of the market, fancied horses won it in its 5 run-ins. I was sort of looking at the top weight, Princess Power for Nigel Tinkler. It won off 82 before, and it had 1 run there recently. It's off 80 now, and it has a £5 claimer on him. Said Woods is on it. It ran the last time. It sort of died. It finished 5th, like it went from 2nd to 5th in the last 100 yards, and I thought the run would bring it on. And it ran well at the track before, so it's not a great race. Like, he's top weight at 80, so you know it's a run of the mill handicap. So it depends who wasn't out the night before. Maybe that'll win it.
Yes, look, for me, I'm going to stick with the Michael Dodds filly. I just think she's very, very consistent. Have a go Mecca, is it? Or Mecca, one of them names. It's all about the Meccas with these guys. But there definitely is upside still with this filly. And I think her and Jawal might be a nice little double tomorrow to get out. I think I'm sure the 2 of them won't be, like, Jawal probably won't be a big price at all, I'd say, off the back of 2 wins. It might get 2 or 3 to 1 on Jawal, and the other filly, you'll be hoping you might get around 4 to 1 on the Meccas. Have a go, Mecca. Right, let's move on. So, Mickey, to Saturday. And we'll start, I suppose, the first race is it's a race for the 2-year-olds again over 7 furlongs. Did you manage to get a look at that? If not, we can move on. Yeah,
that's the Pat Eddery Stakes.
Pat Eddery, none other than the Pat Eddery Stakes. What a legend.
Called after the great Irish jockey. And a mate of mine from the west of Ireland, living in Chicago, always called Pat Edery God. We were at the Breeders' Cup in 1994 in Churchill Downs. It was the year that a certain young Italian called Lanfranco de Torre won the Breeders' Cup on a Luca Comani trained horse, Baratea. But Pat Edery was riding a horse called Eltish for Henry Cecil, and he was coming up the stretch. He was 132 to 1 on the toes, and your man started shouting, "Come on, God! Come on, God! Come on, God!" And all the Yanks were looking around like, at the program, but they couldn't see any God at all. So the next thing, Eltish finished ahead second to a horse of Dwayne Lucas is called Timber Country. And the man was still shouting, "Good man, God, good man, God." And then the Yanks just turned him off and said, "All them Irish guys, they're all fucked up, you know." But Pat Edery, the Pat Edery stakes, it won last year by Chindit.
Yeah,
Richard Hannon. Hannon has won it 3 times in the last 10 years. The highest rated horse is Mr. McCann. He's raced 101. And he was 4th to native trial the last time. And Michaela was 2nd and Dahab was 3rd. That was in the Group 2, the Superlative Stakes. New Science, it won first time out in Yarmouth in a slow time last year. And then it drifted like a barge out to 7 to 1 from 3s in the Cheshire. It finished 7th of 10. So the ground didn't suit it that day because it was soft ground. Catch It for George Bowie won first time out. It was 5th in Ascot. It was 3rd in a listed race in Newmarket. But they were over 7 or 6 furlongs. And he's trying 7 now. Angel Blue for Ralph Beckett won a conditions race in soft ground in Pontefract. And then it was 13th of 17th in the Coventry Stakes. So the forum suggests Mr. McCann. It's raced 101. It has ran at the distance, and it has that run in the Superlative Stakes of Group 2. You know, this is a listed race. He's down in class, 7 declared. Again, you won't get each way, money, but I'd have to stick with the farm horse, Mr. McCann.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. We tipped up, myself and Joe tipped up Native Trial when he won at the Newmarket meeting. And Mr. McCann, I tell you, when I found out about Mr. McCann, I had tipped up a horse, Triple Time, was it, of Kevin Rhines in Haydock. He was 7 to 4, and I really thought he'd win. I thought Triple Time was a real good bet that day. Well, fuck me pink, this Mr. McCann came out of the stalls and it just murdered them from pillar to post. It really travelled very, very strongly on the front end, and nobody got near it in Haydock. It won very well. I think maybe did Jane Elliott ride it that day, or somebody rode it that day. I think it was Jane Elliott. And it was so dominant that this is definitely the farm horse, and I think will take all the beating. However, there is an interesting runner, I thought, for Richard Fatty. A filly, I think it is it? Yeah, Ribchester filly. This filly won first time out in what we call her, Nurse Clare, is it? Could that be right, Nurse Clare? Yeah, it could be something like that. Yeah. Right. Well, this definitely for me could be interesting, and Richard Fatty, no stranger to winning 2-year-old races, so definitely a horse might be interesting. I see Danny Tudhope takes the ride here. Definitely interesting, but definitely Mr. McCann, the horse to beat. Right, let's move on to an interesting race. Another 6 furlongs, I think it is 6 furlongs, yeah. 6 furlongs race at Ascot in the 5 or the 150. So an interesting horse here. I see he's headed the market. There's betting in is System. It turned over Desert Dreamer the last day in Newmarket. I see the two of them oppose each other again, or they take on each other again. 6 furlongs probably suits System more than Desert Dreamer here. I'm not so sure. What are you thinking, Mickey?
Yeah, but like Desert Dreamer brought the best form to the table the last time, and System beat it, and it was unfancy. They won at 22 to 1, and you'd have to be on, and that he'd franked, that he'd beat him again, So I looked no further than that. Like I just said, System, and all systems go.
The one just interesting, I will say, I did tip up Desert Dreamer the last day each way, albeit on the preview I did think that the Sandrine would win it. But I tipped up Desert Dreamer because it was 10 and 11 to 1 that morning. I tipped it up on the service each way. And I thought it ran well. I thought, to be honest, if I'm honest, Oisin Murphy, he's an absolute brilliant jockey. Took the ride that day. He dropped him in, gave him a kind of a great ride on the day to finish second. But he never put him in there. Not that he could have even competed with Sandrine that day. Sandrine was just too dominant. But I just thought Desert Dreamer, she ran on nicely, but she never got a chance to win that race that day. Not that she could, she wasn't good enough to win it, and she wouldn't have. But I just think if they go a million miles an hour and he rides it the same in Ascot, that kind of ride he gave her that day could really suit it if they do go hard up front in Ascot, because she is kind of a pacey filly that likes to come late, but will she see out a stiff six? She's very good at Newmarket, the Desert Dreamer. So look, it's an interesting one. For me, I'm going to give a shout out to a filly here at the Girl. She's 14-1, have a small few bob each way. This was a big talking filly when she came out first time out. She disappointed in Haydock, but she came back then the next day and was pretty dominant. She has to step up, but they obviously think she was pretty good because she was well backed 4 times. So have a look at that. Right, let's move on to the 225. There's flip-flopping favourites here all day. The punters don't know who they want or what they want. But I see latest generation, Simon and Ed Christopher. William Buick in the saddle is after just turning Fantastic Foxwell, joint favourites. Now, what are you thinking here, Mickey? Nigel Tinkler has an interesting runner as well in this.
Any of the selections and any of the form and everything I looked at, I never looked at prices at all this weekend. I said I do it my old-fashioned way. That has been good to me down through the years, and we'll see that I didn't go for value or profit or anything that into my head. The 7 declared runners, 4 favourites in the last 10 years, 10 different trainers. The one that came to my attention straight away because I had it in my tracker was Fantastic Fox. It was third in the maiden earlier this year to Snow Lantern, and Durab was second. And we all know what Snow Lantern did. And Durab was second last week and was 7th in the French Derby. Fantastic Fox then won its maiden in Hamilton very easily, pulling up like on a good time. Then it ran in the Golden Gates handicap in Ascot and cruised into the lead before the bend. And it was leading at the 2 furlong pole, but clearly it didn't stay, and the soft ground took its toll as well. And it ran a bit keen earlier in the thing. And it's a Franklin court back to a mile, ground should suit, and I'd be on Fantastic Fox. Don't know any idea. I have no idea the price at all or nothing. Where it is in the market.
He's around it 130 favourite. Very interesting. Look, the last day in Ascot, Sylvester de Souza, he chose to ride this horse over another horse I tipped up. I tipped up a horse called Fox's Tails. You'll remember he bolted up,
yeah.
And mark my words, Sylvester de Souza, if he ever had the choice again, will never pick the way he picked. But it's definitely interesting that he did pick that horse over Fox's Tails, because for me, Fox's Tails was always a really good horse. So I know he was green and it took him a minute to show it, but I couldn't believe de Souza picked this horse over Fox's Tails the last day. So it definitely really does bode well for his chances. However, I'm going to side with the Nigel Tinkler trained as Isla Kaya. Rowan Scott, I just think this horse has been winning, but not by wide margins or anything, but it keeps winning. And it looks like it's close, but it's not as close as it looks. It looks like it's always going to win, even though the winning margin might make it look close. And I think we haven't seen the best of it. And it's an improving 3-year-old, and I think it could win again. I might be wrong. I've been wrong before. I'm not wrong that often, but I have been wrong before. And I think it could be an improver that is underestimated. I think it's coming in with some really nice form, and it keeps winning. So look, winners follow winners. Right, Mickey D, what is on the next race? Muta Kahel bolted up in July, or in the July Cup meeting. 7 furlong race tomorrow. He lumped the monstrous weight the last day. This is the 3 o'clock on Saturday. Right. I see Danya's in this as well. This is an interesting horse for the Owen Burrows. What are you thinking here?
Well, I picked Motakyle the last time in the last podcast at 12-1, and it hosed up that day. Blue Miss won it last year, 9-2 favourite. And there's only two favourites in the last 10 years, and you had a 20-1, a 33-1, twice, you had a 50-1, so outsiders can win it as well. Masekale, actually, he won that the last year of 109. He's rated 118 now, but he's only carrying a £5 penalty for that. And so he's £4 well in. So if he was carrying £5 more the last day, it wouldn't have stopped him. He won so convincingly. 5 4-year-olds have won this in the last 10 years, and 3 5-year-olds. 6 under 9 stone, 3 either 9 stone 1 or 9 stone 2, and only one horse was say 9 stone 7. It was Raising Stand 2019. So normally the 9 stone, a few pounds either way is the mark to look at, sort of, which would suit the likes of Shine So Bright. He was fourth to Masekale there, but he was fourth the last 4 times. The 4-year-old, an outsider, or it should be an outsider, is Acquitted. It's a nice third last time out, and it was great last year for him. It was second to Palace Pier in a handicap in Newcastle. So like Palace Pier is a Group 1 horse now. I'm not saying that he's improved to the same level, but he's only a 4-year-old still, so he could be a good each way bet in that. But it's hard to look past Masekale the way it won the last day, and it is about 60 grand, I think, first prize in this. So they could have went the route of a group race or a listed race. So they're trying to pick up the extra prize money here. It's still, it's £4 well in. I know it's carrying 9 stone 10, is it?
Yeah, it has a massive weight. Yeah, 913.
913.
Yeah.
But it's actually £4 well in. So, they're putting it in there to win the dash. So, if they're satisfied with that, I'll be Masekale and Quiston sort of each way would be my in the last race.
Yeah, look, he was very, very dominant. It just was the last day. I thought he was a really good winner. Look, it looked like a Group 1 horse on the day, like in a handy. He was that dominant. However, it's never that easy as always, or there'll be no bookies and the punters will be rich. So, for me, I think he will to pull this off. He will have to be a fucking fair one with the 913. He is capable. The last day was very good, but to do it again twice, there is a few improvers here. Now, I don't want to go into it too much, but I do have the winner of it, so I can't give it out because it's for the Patreon service later in the week. So, however, I don't know if I have the winner, but I tell you one thing, I have a horse that's going to warm the whole of the favourite. Right, excuse my language, as always. I'll move on to the big one, Mickey D. Were you ever in love?
Was I ever in love? I could write a book about it.
Or like many fellas, were you ever a lone eagle?
Never don't abide the book. It's a great race. There's only 6 declared, and I would imagine that it'll go down to 5 because Wonderful Tonight.
Yeah,
they're expecting a rain miracle.
if there was a load of rain, because he will run on good. I think by the way he's talking, he will run on good.
Yeah, but to be at his best, it needs heavy ground.
Yeah, agree.
I don't know. But just looking out at the sky here today, there's no rain like that. What they want anyway. It was won by Enable 3 out of the last 4 years. John Gosden has won it 5 times in the last 10 years. 3 3-year-olds and 4 4-year-olds, 2 5-year-olds and a 6-year-old, but they're slightly wonky then because Enable was won it at 3, 5 and 6. Like it didn't win it as a 4-year-old. The savage form in the horses, like Lone Eagle was second in the Irish Derby. Adair was the winner of the Epsom Derby. Love has won the Prince of Wales and won the Cheshire or the Yorkshire Oaks last year. Broome has won 3 wins and 2 seconds this year, second in a Group 2. Mishriff, 4 out of its last 6, won the Sheba Classic over a mile and a half. And then just third behind St. Mark's Basilica and the Coral Eclipse. But didn't sort of get home, I thought that it sort of blew up. Possibly this mile and a half was suited better. And they're very keen to win a Group 1 in Europe because the Group 1s were abroad. The 3-year-olds, get a £7 weight for age allowance. The Epsom Derby, it looks very strong. I know that he was only raced 107, Adair or Adair. Hurricane Lane was third. Won 2 Group 1s since, but Hurricane Lane had the front shoes pulled off of that day, the first in that race. So hard to know like that. If the rain stays away, I'm going to stay with Adair. And thinking that Epsom Forum, and there was late money, even though it was 50s that morning, came into his double digits in less than 20s. So I'm not going to go for love. I just think the Yorkshire Oaks last year just beaten Alfinista, wasn't it? And I'm just not. I'm going to stick with the Colts to get the £7 allowance, Adair. Or Adair.
Yeah, look, it's a great race. Love at the top of the betting, absolute magical. Like, she's been brilliant. You can't knock her at all. She's come back. She's got it done again. Lone Eagle, I thought the Derby was over in Ireland, to be honest. Obviously, William Buick's horse is just a Trojan warrior. He just absolutely. He just pulled out a big finish to run down that horse, because Lone Eagle looked home for all money. Mishreef, I think we'll see a better Mishreef. We'll definitely see a much, much better Mishreef than we've seen in Sandown. No doubt about that. Better ground. If you ask me, I'm not saying Johnny Gosden took him there for a race course gallop or anything like that, but I am saying he was not 100% fit on the day, I'd say. Like, just by watching the race, he looked like a horse. He ran okay, but he looked like a horse that tired up the hill. Now, definitely on good ground, I can see him running a lot better and getting back to some of his magical form that's been out on the world stage. He will have to be at his best to beat this lot. Adair, right, real impressive of the Epsom Derby, real impressive winner. But this race for me, Hurricane Lane didn't really handle the track, as we talked about. Took him a minute to get running. Max Sweeney finished fourth, has been disappointing since. Mojo Star got a brilliant ride on the day, crept into contention. Everything went right for him. He finished second. Third Realm, a horse I love. Everything went wrong for him. He was beat after 3 furlongs. He's such a good horse. He stayed on into 5th or 6th. I think he is the real horse to take out of this Epsom Derby, Third Realm, and I think time will show that as well. But I think Adair was a big improving horse on the day, but I think he handled the track better than everybody. He got a brilliant ride from Adam Kirby, and it was one of the best rides you'll see. And I think although he bolted up and he looks like he could be a very good horse, I can't see him putting in a performance like he did in the Derby. I think a lot went in his favour. I think he could win it. I'm not saying he can't win it. I think he could win it, but I don't think he's as magical as the 4 or 5 length winner he was in the Derby. I know a few of the horses. Look, I know for a fact the other horses didn't handle the track. It's there to see. If anyone with a pair of eyes can see that. And there was other things that just went wrong for so many other horses on the day, and everything went right for Adair. Albeit we will big up his performance again. He did do it from stall 1, which no horse has done it from in a long, long time. I don't know the stats on that, but I think it's terrible, the stall 1. Right, I'm going to leave it there. I think Lone Eagle will probably get a freebie on the front end. Mishreef will run a lot better. Wonderful Tonight won't run if the ground is that. Oh no, Broome is in here. He might go to the front, so because
he goes to the front.
He went hell for leather. Colin Keane told the world the time for cotton was over when he rode this horse out in France the last day. He did what we do. There's a secret to winning in this game, and that's let them on and don't be caught. And he let him on. Yes, he did let him on. When he watched the ride in France, there was no cotton there. The horse was told, listen, horse, I know you like to race behind the bridle, but today, sonny boy, you are winning. Right, we'll move on. There's a couple of races, Mickey. I haven't looked at these last 2 races. Do you want to move on to York, to the listed? I
had a peep at the 2 of them. The 410 is a handicap, 1.5 miles. There's only 6 declared. Camelot Tails for Simon Crisford is highest rated at 86, and it gets £11 weight for age allowance. So it's carrying 9 stone 10. It's solid. there was solid money for the last time as well, and it's at mile 2 and it's up to a mile 4. The distance will suit. I think that'll take all the beating. And you only got £2 on the hike for winning the last day. And at the 4:45, it's a female jockeys race over 7 furlongs. And the first one I always look for in those is Serena Brotherton, which is riding a pure dunce altogether. It's terrible for him. 3 runs for, I think it's Gail Kellaway. But Alibaba is a consistent horse, 4th, 2nd, 3rd, 2nd, and it might get its head in front this time, but that's no great confidence about it. But
well, I haven't looked at that at all, so we're going to swiftly move on and just talk about a really good filly that shows up tomorrow, Alpine Star. Now, look, she's going to be long odds on, I'd say. She should be winning this, but it's great to see her back on the track. She has some really, really good form, this filly. She's come up against, obviously, the likes of Palace Pier and all them. What do you think? Excuse me. What do you think, Mickey? Is it as plain sailing for this filly? I think, is it a mile and a quarter tomorrow?
Mile and a quarter, only 7 runners. Like, it's only a listed affair. Interestingly, like, she first time out, it was in this is her first time run this year as a 4-year-old. But as a 3-year-old, her first time out was in July, and she was 3rd to Love. So her maiden win was in Galway in August, like as a 2-year-old. So like she always runs in the second half of the season. So I wouldn't worry about any issues with her. She was 2nd to Palace Pier in a Group 1 in Deauville, and to 2nd in Longchamp as well. To Tirana. That was the won the Breeders' Cup, Taranawa. This is a prep run for the Yorkshire Oaks, and then she has the matron entered, and she's entered for the Champion Stakes at Leopardstown. So they're the 3 Group 1s. This is a listed race. This will blow away the cobwebs, so she'll piss up at a bad price.
Yeah, that's what I think. I just looked at it and I think she's just going to be far, far too good. Obviously, she'll be long odds on, and it's just one to watch for me. I'm not going to get into it. Right, let's move on to Saturday. There's a Group 2 here, and we have a few nice colts on show. We have Armory. You have the horse that won is a Muta Hafet, or however you pronounce him, the big talking horse. Won well in Ascot, and for me, he looks the real deal. We have Juan Elcano. He got the job done at a big price in Ascot. Mickey D, is Muta Hafet the best middle distance horse in England at the minute?
It looked very impressive the last day, but here's an interesting trend for you. No 3-year-olds in the last 13 years has won this.
Well, that's about to change tomorrow. Mark my words.
4 or 5-year-olds.
You see that stat there? You can just get the chalkboard.
Yeah, but I'll be doing that so afterwards. But I go by these down through the years, and they help me well. It's rated 112. It won the Hampton Court, which is it's only a Group 3. Now the 2 horses that has ran out of that race since. Snapatera was 4th and was well beaten in Leopardstown, and Moving Time was 5th and was 5th to Real World since the Newmarket. I'm on Armory. Armory won the Group 2 in Chester and was very impressive that day. And I actually thought I tipped it up last year and I backed it in the Prince of Wales, the day that Love beat it. Shamie Heffernan has gone over for the ride, and you were right about John Elcano. That was very impressive the last day for Kevin Ryan. Won the Wolverton Stakes, a listed race, and that was after wind surgery. But I'd be on Armory to keep the trends going. I'm against you, Mr. Merrigan.
Right, well, them stats aren't worth jack tomorrow. So listen, what I want to say to you is yes, I really like Armory, and this year he's going to have a good season. There's no doubt about it. He's kicked it off nicely. I really like his debut, but I don't think he'll give this horse the weight tomorrow. Now, I might be wrong, but I just think if the weight for age, if there were nearer in the weights, I think it's enough to keep this horse in front of Armory. I really do. And although Armory's runs are this year, you'll be liking them. They really thought this was a good horse. For whatever reason, his 3-year-old campaign, it never sparkled with Armory, but you always get the feeling they thought he was much better. I just think tomorrow, what is the difference? Wait till I just get it right here. 9, 2, 12, 12 pounds. He won't give this horse 12 pounds. And if you think he does, Mickey D, I think we'll be putting you in the wheelbarrow, not money. So maybe
Put a double wheel on it.
Do you genuinely think he can give him the 12 pounds and beat him?
I think he's a genuine Group 1 horse, and I go on the stats and I go on the trends, and that's how I picked my bets down through the years. So I can't, even though it was eye-catching and it is a very promising horse, I just can't just throw them out the window. You might, but I can't. I'm sorry.
No, I just thought it was interesting. Look, I just think Muta Fahed is. They talked a lot about this horse. A lot of people liked him, and he backed it up. He got it done in a messy race in Ascot. Maybe a favourite of him. He set out the back that went hard. He did travel. He travelled, but he travelled like much the best. He came wide. It's an interesting race and it's an intriguing race, but I just think with getting the weight, it's going to be too much, and he should. I think he should beat Armory and beat him ultimately.
Yeah. I'd be glued to this race above all the races over the weekend.
I tell you what, we'll have a match bet. I'll have a fiver on Muta Ham and you have a fiver on Armory. And whoever wins or loses when we meet first, you're at the bar first to buy the drink, or I'm at the bar to buy the drink. It's that simple. It's either right. This is the battle of who gets the first round. Well, Mickey, I'm just telling you, if my horse wins, I happen to drink in a lot of company, so you better have deep pockets when I come with the crew. Listen, the very best of luck. Mickey D, as always, smashing the bookies with the stats. Any final words for the viewers, Mickey, before we wrap it up and get out of here? What are you thinking? Out of all the ones there, so we went through this weekend, give us your best bet there, Mickey.
Well, I have to go with Armory, don't I?
Well, do you know what? I'm going to have to look into a little reverse forecast, I think, to save just in case you do me.
Just before we go, I was looking elsewhere. There's 2 horses that interest me. The 6:35 at Don Royal on Friday evening, Barbados, for Jesse Harrington. It was second in the race last year to Master of Reality at level weights, and it's getting £3 this year. It had a couple of recent runs. It actually ran in Ascot in the 2.5 mile race. I think that might get it done tomorrow evening, and Master of Reality probably will be favourite. And the 4:35 in Gordon Park on Saturday, Jesse has another horse as well, Jungle Cove, 4-year-old. It's, even though there's a horse in it that backed the last twice, Howling Wolf, but he's gone off the race.
Are you fucking dating, or you're hipping up that many horses belong to her? Or what? Are you down on the gallops? Are you down on the gallops watching all the pieces of work, or what?
No, it's just a coincidence now that those were the 2 choices. So we might be down on the gallops if they win. You never know.
Well, I'll tell you one thing. If the viewers get on and it does win, they will feel like they're in Barbados this week, because it is absolutely roasting here. Right, as always, the time for cotton is over. Mickey D, great to have you on board here at Colbert Sports, and let's hope we can get 1 or 2 winners over the weekend.
Sláinte.
Thanks a million.